We are officially live. Oh, you were in the chat. I didn't even see that until it popped up. How long were you sitting there and like it was just me?
Good, a good like 20, 30 seconds.
Okay, good. Cuz like I have to click a button to like let you in basically, but I think it lets you in automatically, but I have to click a button to see you.
Mm.
Um but anyway, this is just going to be a couple minutes of rigmarole hoping that people show up and light conversation until people hopefully show up.
No,
So in the meantime, just like I don't know, you could do a dance or something maybe.
that's true.
You don't have to, but
No, I'm not gonna dance. Let's see what I got on my phone right now.
yeah. What's up, Saline Chicken 35? Saline Chicken 35 is in the chat.
What's up, Saline Chicken 35?
Let's go.
It's crazy. We just hatched chickens at my preschool.
Devin goes
Um,
to preschool, by the way.
yeah, I dropped out of college. They're like, you got to start over, square one.
Billy Madison style.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, no going back. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, we just hacked.
Oh, I'm sorry, Saline Chicken. That's too bad.
Oh, finding chemo.
Oh,
Damn.
it's a joke. That's cool.
Mhm. That's the baby chicks that we just hatched.
Those are cute.
They're cute as hell. It's crazy. Like I feel like God when I'm holding them.
Yeah, is it like your responsibility? Like, do you have any authority on this?
No, just for like the next 2 weeks. Then we bring them to Casey Farm.
F in chat.
F and pay respects.
Can Saline Chicken or Saxophone 2022 tell me how like Devin's levels are? Are Devin's levels okay? Talk, Devin.
Um, yeah. So we just hatched chicks in my preschool class. Um, and right now we have 12, all 12 eggs hatched, and we got to take care of them. Let me know if that sounds good. Saxophone 2022 says it sounds
Good.
good.
What's
Thanks,
up,
Sax.
Remy? All right. Well, we can start talking about stuff.
Let's do it.
As long as Remy, Saline Chicken 35, and Saxophone 2022 are here, like,
Hey, viewers are viewers.
who else matters?
If if there's more people in the chat than there are on screen, then the show goes on.
Exactly. That's like the. Have you done those type of shows where. So to preface this, your background is in a funny place of like music and comedy going pretty hand in hand throughout your life. Have you done improv shows where there are like nobody there?
Yeah, we definitely did some shows in Newport with the bit players that were very poor attended. I remember in college, um, we used to always joke that our improv and stand up shows were just a was just a like a VIP for our roommates and girlfriends.
Yeah.
That was the only people that ever showed up. It was like
Like it's just a different place to hang out.
yeah, it was just like we just rented a room for us to hang out. That was like what it was. We filled out a form for us to do what we already did.
Yeah.
Um, which is, I mean, it was what it was. It definitely sucked, but like I don't know, it kind of gives you like humility to a certain point.
Yeah.
I remember like doing a show once, a stand-up show in my college campus's like cafe,
Mm-hmm.
like while people are ordering food. And I just remember like doing some of my really weird shit. Just and I hear like to the side, just like a dude saying, like the guy taking orders, like, "What? I said double chicken tenders, double." And I was like, this makes it way better.
Like that guy's funnier than you were doing bits.
Oh yeah, I was like, this is way better than what's going on here. And then like some like some uh uh international student like walking like through me to like get to like a table.
Mm.
Like I was like, yeah, this is. I was like, this is, and then like he was like all like flustered, and I was like, no, it's okay. And then
Yeah.
he was like, didn't understand what I was saying. So
I'm doing bits.
I'm doing like no, like I'm doing a really good bit. Like
Yeah.
like it works better on paper, but like I promise it's really funny.
Do you feel shame when you do comedy at all? Is that a dumb question?
um, yeah, I had to like It's funny. Um, kind of, I
Mm.
guess. Yeah. It's like, I mean, like my brand of comedy, which like you've seen a bit of, um, like I have to sort of like, I don't want to say like take ownership, but like have accountability of like my own stupidity
Mm.
a little bit, and that sort of like eradicates like any shame I feel. Um, I think there's a fine line between like self-deprecation and then just like woe is me, pity me type shit. Um, and so I definitely used to feel like really self-conscious and like shameful doing comedy. Like is this good? Is this good? And then I just kind of leaned, and then I just kind of leaned into like doing things that I thought were really funny
Mm.
and like really specific bits that um, I knew I would enjoy.
How uncomfortable are you, or how comfortable are you with people being uncomfortable watching you? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Um, I never want to like intentionally alienate the audience or like, because I think there are some people who sort of like get off on that and like sort of have like this strange ego of like, not just in comedy, but like in all media forms of this ego of like, art's supposed to make you uncomfortable and this like idea of you just don't get it. And it's like, well, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it because you enjoy it? Is there a genuine interest in it? Or are you doing it for the sake of like weird for the sake of weird? And so, like, for example, I did in college once, there was like a performance arts show for like a lit mag or art magazine. And I performed at it. And I don't know why they asked me to perform at it. It was like a bunch of like experimental music. And then me, and I decided to
Doing
do
like stand up?
doing it like I called it a comedic performance. Uh, I have that's like the one thing where my ego comes into play where I don't call it stand up. Um, but I did Who's on First by Abbott and Costello, that whole like vaudeville routine, but I did it by myself with the microphones like 15 20 feet apart, so I had to race back and forth
Yeah.
to like make it sound seamless until it's just like me huffing and puffing,
Yeah.
and that was like more like like a test of endurance. And like certainly there was a moment where people were like uncomfortable, but there's like a dip in it where it's like, oh, he's doing a bit. I don't know what he's doing. I don't like this. It doesn't make any sense. I get it now.
Hmm.
Because now he's just like chugging water and like is trying to say the line.
Do you think you have will you play to certain audiences, or does that matter to you or not? Because I think a recent funny example is me going to Adam Friedland in Providence,
Yeah.
and it was like just like 60-year-old like mobsters in suits, and he's doing like niche internet comedy, and these guys like hate him. They're not like heckling, but they're just not laughing.
Yeah.
But then opposed to the opener, who was the most like, back in my day we didn't have cell phones type of guy, and they were loving him. And I just think that that's funny of like, you probably doing improv have so many different kinds of audiences, and then you're saying like compared to your colleges and whatnot, are you happy with a variety? Does that make you more excited?
Yeah. I like a variety. I think I went to when I went to Bard College, which is like a liberal art school, like crazy most liberal art school in the world, just like in the middle of the woods, and just like people existing in a bubble, um, just like this progressive uh, liberal DSA bubble, an echo chamber. And that's not me. This isn't me like qualifying myself as some sort of like far right incel, but like we existed in this bubble for so long of shared humor and shared views, um, and then like getting outside of that bubble, realizing like the humor on all sides of the political spectrum. And that doesn't mean I do political humor, but like the idea of like politics has become so ingrained in personality now. Um, and so like the humor and all of that. And so I don't want to say like I can't I pander to certain audiences. I get sort of a vibe from certain audiences and know when to maybe bail on a joke. But I do know that there are some things that, are pretty center left.
Yeah.
No, that are pretty accessible on all sides of that personality, political spectrum, and honestly, like I think, in a weird way, like I would see, this is where I might get myself canceled. In a weird way, like I would rather perform. Let me give you an example. I did a bit, Kismet Pawtucket rather. I did they do like a live fake radio show like once a month, where they have like it's sort of like a knockoff, like a parody NPR and I don't even forget the name of the show. But anyways, it's like they have a
like
topic.
This American Life or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking at. And the topic was cultivate, and I was asked to do like a character piece for it, like monologue. And for me, cultivate made me think of like gardening, and so I did a character of a guy who was like the beneficiary of like generational wealth. His name was Emile Saint Laurent, and he was really into urban farming, but purely for the aesthetics of wearing Carhartt.
Yeah.
And I just gave like a whole monologue on like urban farming, and said all the things that me and my urban farming polycule used, and it was all real things that exist that are like eco-friendly, top shelf, environmentally conscious things for like compost that cost literally $1,200.
Oh yeah.
Minimum. And so it's this idea of like, if you too can be like eco-friendly for the low price of $1,200 to $3,000. And I listed all these things, and like, and then like I made jokes, I made jokes at the expense of people who do urban farming. Like I made a joke about like, sure the house that I bought could have been used for like housing for lower income families, but I needed that third story for my garden. And then in the interview portion, they asked my character, what kind of individual are you looking for to join your urban farming family? And I said, the kind of person who the kind of person who replaced their Black Lives Matter sign with a Ukraine flag.
Yeah.
And I said that, and I heard some groans, and I looked at the person who groaned, and they were wearing an NPR shirt.
Just like too on brand specifically.
Yeah. And I said that, and I thought to myself, like, I stand by it. I stand by that assertion. So to answer your question, like, I don't want to pander to that audience of neoliberalism, people who equated like Donald Trump to Voldemort to make things more digestible and palatable. But also I have to like, I don't know. So it's an interesting thing to toe the line where it's like, do I want to sacrifice? They get pandered enough. Yeah, they do.
Well, I just feel like it comes down to you being true to yourself. Because if you're doing your art, whether it's music or comedy, and you're trying to do something that isn't you, then like, what's the point? And P.S. Hello to Renato, Zucchini Records, and everybody else in chat.
Let me get F's in chat.
Yeah, some F's in chat for Devon's career.
Before it even started.
So real quickly, I want to go back, and we're gonna listen to Duchess for a second. And then go back and we can talk about some music stuff too.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't click anything. I'll be right back.
Drives a fast car, a bullet through the night. the spiraling line. Well, my mind's a blade stuck on a fever, singing Hare Krishna till I believe it. I'm still afraid of forgiveness, singing Hare Krishna till I believe it. I'll let my love find its way on back to you. I'll let my love find its way on back to you. And he drives a fast car. She's crying the whole way. She says as if the fun got scary. Have you ever thought of taking it easy? Don't you know that somebody loves you? Don't you know that somebody loves you? I'll let my love find its way on back to you. I'll let my love find its way on back to you. I'll let my love. I'll let my love. I'll let my love. I'll let my
That is Duchess by Damien Baby. That's a good song, bro. That's a very nice song. Wait, are you still there? Oh god, something happened.
Oh, I muted myself.
Okay, yeah, you're good.
I was watching it on my phone and
Good.
didn't want to know that.
Yeah, that's a good song.
Thank you.
So here's sort of the opening question, at least when it comes to music and comedy. Do you think that that's a close line? Do you think that musicians are funny generally? Do you think that comedians dabble with music at all during performing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's different elements to it of like performance and showmanship. And obviously, the prime examples come to your mind of people who have done both. Bo Burnham, Whitmer Thomas,
Jamie Foxx.
And I think for me it's like, what's her name? She has a special. She does like cabaret. I think she has a special on Netflix. I haven't seen it. Shit, it'll come to me. But for me, it's like there has to be like a certain level, like I mentioned earlier, of like self-awareness in both, and like staying true to yourself in both. That sounds really like cliche, like stay true to yourself, hags.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like like I think like to do both, for me, it's like have an element of self-awareness, including the not just the good stuff, but the bad stuff, the bad character traits that you have, and be genuine. Make a song for you, not necessarily for someone else. Tell a joke for you. Don't necessarily tell a joke that you know. There's a quote that I love, more relation to comedy. Norm Macdonald said that he hates when a joke gets applause because that's just people agreeing with the joke.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like, do you want people to agree with your joke? That's just you. So it's like you can make a song that, I hits all the right points, hits all the correct vague declarations of love, but if it's not genuine to you. So I think there has to be that level of self-awareness in both, for both to work.
And I think that does come in through your lyrics too, because uh, to give you sort of a preface of this, that you can say as much or as little as you want, but you are a guy that has like had your own troubles in life. And so I think that comes through both in your music and comedy in an interesting way. And so it's like you have a perspective and you're using it.
Yeah, it's funny. So Duchess, it's funny that song. For me, it blew up. And from my perspective, like 60,000 streams, and I started getting like DMs about it and getting playlists and all this shit and DMs. And it's funny because this song is about the Duchess Hospital in Rhinebeck, New York, the ER that I used to go to all the time when I was drinking and drugging, and I used to go there all the time. So it's about being driven to the hospital, and in my mind, that's where the humor kicked in. I was like, what if I just wrote a love song about a hospital?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dutchess County ER, shouts out.
And I think that there are elements to like religion too that play with it in the song, and then you have your own elements of that in your life. And it's good that you can be authentic as someone that's like, people talk about like trauma and whatnot in music, but being creative with it, I think, is the most interesting part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. It's like, it's like this. So, not to get all masturbatory, but it's like, this guy R.D. Lang, not comedian R.D. Lang, R.D. Lang, the Scottish psychiatrist, he had this idea, the politics of experience, and this idea that he had, this like back in like the 70s, is that Devon is that I am the sum of all my experiences, and Harrison, you're the sum of all of your experiences. I will never know your experiences, but I know you as the sum of your experiences. So everything that's happened in your life up to this point has affected our interactions. And now you have impacted my experience because of our interactions, our friendship, our communication. So now I've changed, and now I have a new experience that forms me later on, and then that passes on, and then same for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this idea of like we're all made up of experiences, and it's like, what do we do with them? We all have trauma to a certain degree, and it's like this idea of, will you be creative with it? Will you personalize it? Will you romanticize it? Nothing wrong with any of those, but it's just like, what feels most genuine to you?
Mm-hmm. It's funny looking at that as sort of like a ship of Theseus almost thing of like changing as who you are, and little bits becoming a different person, but you're always going to be the same, but you're different, but you're not.
Yeah, so it's like, am I the same person that I was 27 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
No. It's the same body, and medically you can argue that it's not, because every 7 years, etc.
Yeah.
But am I the same person that I was 5 years ago? To a degree, sure. But yeah, it's like you're saying, yeah.
And when it comes to your music and what you're willing to put into it, do you want music and comedy for people to at least like get into you? Like, do you want it to be vulnerable? Or which one more, or if there is a difference?
Yeah. I think there's, in music, I definitely lean more towards vulnerability, in the sense of writing true things. I studied creative writing and literature at college, and that was sort of what I focused on a lot. Was I want to say making things more dramatic, like true things, and spinning them a little bit, and not passing them off as nonfiction, but using them just to influence. I've experiences not only for myself, but experiences from my father's life, friends' lives, random strangers. Um, and so, like, yeah, I think, I like to mine those memories and mine these. Sorry, my girlfriend's texting me, and I had to tell her that I can't talk right now, babe. I'm on Twitch.
Yeah, I'm going viral.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Me and the boys are streaming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I like to mine memory and experiences. Sometimes a little more vaguely and cerebrally rather. And sometimes like the literal. Like I had this song from a couple years ago called "It Has Eyes and a Mouth," and that song is literally like just a retelling. It doesn't work so much as like a song structure. That was like verse chorus, but that one literally was a retelling, like verbatim, of me coming out of a blackout in the passenger seat in a car like 6 years ago on the highway, and I came out of a blackout at like 8 a.m, and a friend was driving me back to Rhode Island for like a family event, and I come out of this blackout. I've been awake this whole time, but just like wasn't sure where I was, and this person was just blasting Calvin Harris.
Sure.
just like insane, like EDM, like cookie cutter shit. And I just came out of this blackout. I was like, where the fuck am I? And I look at her, and she's just like has no idea. She's just dancing along, and then like Avicii comes on, R.I.P. King, and like Avicii comes on, and I'm just like looking all around, and I like it was just like this really disorienting event. And then like years went by, and I was sober, and I was like, that's kind of funny, but also like weirdly like scary. And so I wrote it down. I wrote it in a song. So sort of stuff like that, where I like to mine these memories of just like who I used to be.
I think your growth as a musician is really interesting too, because over the past few years, like me watching you get better. I mean, maybe it's a lot of the production talking, but I think that your songs have gotten a lot better. And I'm interested in sort of the how you went from like the most lo-fi shit in the world to like eventually getting like a higher quality sound to come out. Like what's the story there?
I got money. I got paid.
Yeah.
No, I loved. I used to like record shit on my phone on like the GarageBand app on my phone, and like mix it on the bus, doing that, and like that was honestly really fun. But I was like really obsessed at the time with this idea. It's not original to Brian Eno, but something that I read him saying, which is process over product, and this idea of documenting, and just whatever medium it's in, whatever it's music, art, fashion, writing, just this idea of constantly documenting, and at the end of it, maybe you have something, maybe you don't, or maybe the process is the product. And so I just like would record everything and anything on my phone, and would just do that. And then at a certain point, I was talking to my buddy Connor, who plays drums on all the new shit, and we're talking about something or other, because then I eventually upgraded from my phone. I got a Mac, started doing that Logic shit, watching YouTube videos and figuring it out. And I still love like just making things on Logic weird. But I started talking to my buddy Connor, the drummer, and we started talking about recording. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'll ever do it. And he was like, well, why not? I was like, I don't know, the money. And I had just gotten like a paycheck, not from my real job, from like a music gig. And he was like, well, what's that going towards? And he was like, and I was like, I don't know. He's like, maybe do something for yourself. So I did, and now I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to spending money.
Yeah.
I love
This shit rocks.
I love having money and then just giving it away.
Yeah.
But it's way different, and it's I think a big fear of mine. I remember talking about this a couple of years ago with a therapist. Was this idea of collaboration, not just in music, but this idea of just like letting other people touch my projects. And I've been very lucky and grateful for the people that I've led into that realm of music and comedy, to let them touch those things and let them like add their own thoughts, because sometimes I'm too in it and I need that third person, that fly on the wall, to say, hey, what if you added this, what if you took that away? And then I hear it, and I still like, after the suggestion, there's still a part of me that like listens to it and I'm like, shit, they're so right. Oh man, I'm so mad at myself. But then like ultimately I'm like, they're helping me. So,
and speaking to that, I want to play another one of your songs. P.S. Hello to Joe and Gecko in the chat.
Yo.
How is everyone? We're going to listen to Brux's Grin.
Hell yeah.
A very collaborative song for you.
Yeah.
And here's one of Devon's songs. Here is Brux's Grin by Damien Baby.
Just like Jesus, day after day, my love. Paradise, my love. Believe in me, what a good line. Don't let it kill you. Brux's Grin. Brux's Grin. Under the stair, I'll hold you still. Brux's Grin. Under the stair, I'll hold you still. God, just to see if he come on down. Made a fool of myself just to see who would stick around. It's a lonely life I've fought, hard to keep my love. The reverence that I steal takes a toll on me. Don't let it kill you. Brux's Grin. Brux's Grin. Under the stair, I'll hold you still. Brux's Grin. Brux's Grin. Under the stair, I'll hold you still.
Another nice song.
Thank you. I love that one.
So that features loved ones of ours, Elsa Bay and Chase Segley.
Had to get the squad on it.
Yeah, had to get the squad on it. Had to get me, me when I'm under the stairs holding Sin. I was actually with you in the studio for this one.
You were. Shouts out Big Nice Studio. Shouts out Emma. Shouts out Space Cowboy Noob.
Big shout out, big shout out. And I just want to ask where you were from a process standpoint of having that song in mind and being like, oh, I want this person. I want this person. How was that for you?
Yeah, I wrote that. I after that conversation, with my buddy Connor, I was thinking of like studio time, doing that research, and then I had like some other songs, like older, like kind of old songs that I was like, maybe I'll just re-record those, give them the treatment, and then I wrote that song. That song's about my jaw slipping out of place for like 2 weeks. It was miserable. Like my whole jaw was just like, and it was just like.
Was there a backstory for that, or?
I was just like, I never ground my teeth. Grinded.
Yeah.
I grind every day though.
Yeah. I'm on my shit, but.
I'm on my shit, dude. I grind. Hustle's real. And I started grinding my teeth like in my sleep, I guess. And I was just clenching a lot. I was just like, and that was like how I was manifesting like mental illness. And I just, and then it just went away suddenly. But it was super weird, and that had never happened before. And I just thought it was like really funny. And then I thought it'd be even funnier to like take this really painful experience and like painful experience, but also like not the end of the world. Oh shit, did I freeze?
No, you're good.
Oh, my screen's frozen. Like this really painful experience for me, but it's like not the end of the world. It's not like life altering. I just had to stop grinding. But I can't stop
for once in your life you had to stop
for once
grinding.
I had to stop grinding. But it was like this painful experience, and I was like, what if I like wrote a song about it, painting myself as Jesus, essentially. Yeah, so it was kind of funny. And then like I had other songs in mind, and then it happened. Then I wrote it, and then I was like, let's just do it. Let's just take this all in. Let's just like go all in on this song. And then I hit up my boy Chase Segley, hit him up, and he sent him the song, and he was like, I got some ideas. I was like, hell yeah. And I was like, he asked me like, what do you want me to play on it? And I was like, what do you want to play on it? He said everything, and I said, all right, bet.
Yeah.
And
I would hate if you did all the instruments on it.
No, dude, what if you did everything?
Yeah.
And then I hit up Elsa, and I because I had them in mind when I was like listening to it. When I was listening to the song, I was like, this song needs like higher register angelic voice. And I was like, damn, I don't have that. And then I think Elsa, they had just put out a song maybe recently, or within that calendar year that I was listening to. It was Caroline, I think.
Yeah.
It was that same calendar year. And I was listening to that, and I was like, bro, it's right there in front of you. So I slid into their DMs. Sorry, Alpha.
It happens, you know.
The grind don't stop. And I slid in, and they were down. And then yeah, it was just like, I love all these stories I hear about, like people in the studio just like coming up with things on the spot, handing things off to each other, being like, yeah, you want to do this, you want to do that, and they just do it, make it more organic. That's sort of what happened. I was like, Elsa, you want to play guitar as well? And they were like, okay. And then Chase had like this idea for like to like take an electric guitar and like kill the lows, the low EQ and high EQ, so it's all mid, but we don't smoke mid, and to like make it sound more like a baritone guitar. And I was like, damn, this is what Dr. Michael was talking about with collaboration,
And I feel like that's a perfect example of you going from someone that you say, I don't want anyone touching my stuff, but then during a studio session, you're with people that you trust that are like your friends. You're with an engineer that you liked and whatnot, and it's like everything just started flowing. And do you think the environment helped a lot with like having it be friends as opposed to like studio musicians or something?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like you were there, we were chilling, and it was just like it was nice to keep it easy going. You know, we're doing bits. I remember you were getting stretched out on the rug.
I was.
You had from your ACL.
You were doing like an Elvis impression and dance.
Oh yeah, it just created like a much looser atmosphere. Like hanging around, eating pizza, singing Blue Cheese Grip.
Yeah.
But like shit like that just like made me more relaxed and like you know in the back of my mind it's like okay like yeah you spent you know a couple $100, quite a lot of money on this, but there's no reason why it can't be fun. And also like you spent the money on it, and that means that the engineer, they want to do a good job, and Emma, they did a great job. And they were fun, they were super uh, receptive to just like crazy ideas we had. And so yeah, I think like that loose atmosphere was way better. If I had been there like by myself or just like put out a Craigslist ad, I would have been very militaristic about it and very like we're on a tight schedule and that's not how you do it. And play this, don't do anything else. And like the last thing we did for that whole song was after we tracked everything, it was like we had to be out at 8 p.m. It's like 7:15. We're like doing some mixing, and Chase is like, "Yo, I got an idea," and he grabs his children's xylophone that he found like in a cardboard box, and he was like, "I'm going in the stew," and it's what you hear at the very beginning. That's the first thing you hear, that little ding, and I love it. And yeah, I was like, if I wasn't doing it with the homies, like something as silly as that wouldn't have made it because I would have been way too focused on product and process.
And I mean, that's like the beauty of it too, is you spent that money and you had a good time, and now you have the song forever.
Oh yeah,
like forever.
God forbid I ever have a child. Like they can like listen to it though.
Do you not want that?
A kid?
Yeah.
Oh man, we're getting real alpha hours.
No, do you not want your hypothetical kid to listen to your music?
Oh, my hypothetical child. I do. I used to have this this weird kind of like dark fantasy. It was like a beautiful.
Yeah, was it beautiful and twisted also? And was it yours?
Oh God, R.I.P. King. Yeah, I just like weird thought of like being like years from now, like I retired from the game, and I was like some like cubicle worker, and then like my hypothetical kid like resents me, then goes off to college, and I'm like respected in weird underground circles, and like my hypothetical son is like, oh shit, my dad was cool. Like, I don't know.
That stuff comes out when they're like going to college or something, specifically in this fantasy of yours.
In this beautiful dark twisted fantasy, yeah. He's like chilling in a dorm room, like smoking weed, and someone's like, yo, let me put you on this like rare shit, and puts me on. He's like, that guy sounds familiar, and looks it up. He's like, fuck, my dad's cool.
Yeah. Fuck, my dad was literally in the stew.
My dad literally was grinding.
Do you think about legacy at all when you're making anything at all?
Oh man. Sometimes I think I have like a personal legacy. Like I can look back at like things that I've done and been like, that was really cool. That was great. I'm gonna do that one again, just again. But it's also like in like the whole theme of process versus product. It's like I don't know if there's gonna be enough. I mean, I don't know if there's gonna be like the things are probably gonna be too much things because I like to change it up. I like to keep things fresh. But, you know, on stage for stand up also, I don't really like doing like the same bits twice. unless I know something's really good and I want to try it out. Same with music. Like I want to just keep producing, making new stuff. And yeah, it'd be cool if like years from now, like some of these songs are still getting traction, um, or they show up randomly on someone's playlist. But for me, it's like the best service I can do to myself is just, yeah, keep producing anything and everything.
With you, I feel like a lot of your stuff has been almost one-offs in a continual sense. Are you
Mm-hmm.
avoiding a longer project on purpose, whether that's music or, I mean, I remember you talking to me about some kind of like comedy longer form thing.
Mm-hmm.
What is stopping you from going longer?
Certainly like right now, like on a more logistical level, just like my own time restraints rather, and my availability. You know, like I work a 9 to 5, um, for now. But I, um, yeah, it's kind of like a multiple part answer. Um, you know I used to make albums, the things I would call albums. You know, like a couple years ago, I did this album called Love. That was just all me, um, in my bedroom, in my old apartment in Providence. Just everything natural, you know, just on Logic with whole lot of MIDI stuff that I just messed with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I always like to joke that I was the MIDI god.
Yeah.
Because like, there's so much you can do, that people don't know about on Logic with like the preset amps and like sounds. So, anyways, I did that album, and that album was a very particular like moment in time. Um, the songs are all about this moment in time, and then after that, I did an album called "Pretty Pretty Country," also on Spotify, and that one was more, um, about like all the songs were written in the same sort of space of time around reflecting on my time in upstate New York, and my adventures, or rather misadventures, uh, while addicted to drugs. And those two albums like captured moments in time and were very focused. And now it's just like I'm doing like this. I'm playing the singles game, um, and I'm doing that so that way I can like sort of treat each song as something precious, because it is,
Mm.
and like really be thoughtful about it. Um, be thoughtful on the lyrics and the rewrites. Um, Send them to friends, to send the demos to Chase and Connor, uh, to get their feedback. But then also it's based off a conversation I had with Chase about the algorithm, and I'm just trying to play the algorithm,
Which worked.
which worked.
With Duchess, at least, yeah.
It worked with Duchess, yeah. I found a crack in the algorithm and it worked, which is super weird. Because it's sort of like, I mean, you've probably had this conversation before. It's like Spotify views an album as one unit, the same as a single.
Mm-hmm.
So if I put on an album on this Thursday, only one song shows up on your release radar. But if I 1 out of 10 songs. But if I put out one song on Thursday, guess what? That one song shows up on your release radar.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, latest release, and it stays fresh for a little bit. It might get on the daily mixes. It might get on someone else's radio. And so it's like about building the audience. And so it's like, when I released those first 2 albums as Damien Baby, they were nice, but they were just for friends. And then I was like, let's do a single. Let's put some money and some effort into Brux's Grin. And that one, still was, mostly friends and relatives. But then they told a friend and they told a relative. And then, it was a little different, it was a little bit bigger. And so I was just like, let's just keep playing that game.
Can you talk about a concept of sort of like religion and comedy, because I feel like religion, at least in the songs that we've talked about, comes up in your lyrics whether that's what the song's about or not, that it just comes up anyway.
Yeah.
And it's typically at least from like a little bit of a wink wink nudge nudge place. So do you think God is funny?
I do. That dude cracks me the fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was raised Mormon, LDS, Latter-day Saints, and my mom, she's still practicing Latter-day Saints. Her whole side of the family is, and so, I went to church every Sunday. I played piano for my church from the time I was like 11 to 17 when I left. And so it's always just been there in my mind. And then when I went to college, I was a creative writing and literature major, but I took a religion class every semester. So technically, I actually could have been a religion major based on credits alone. And I took that more out of interest because I'm so curious about other faiths and other philosophies. And just like, from everything from like Western religions to, I haven't really gotten too much into Eastern religion, but I like to read things. I've read things from the Quran and the Tao Te Ching, which is, Chinese poetry, but there's a religious, spiritual element to it. And yeah, I think it's just really interesting. And yeah, from a humor perspective, just like this idea of like having a scapegoat, whenever, oh, this is a miracle, thank you, God. Oh, God is punishing us.
Yeah.
Like this convoluted flip of the coin. And yeah, like in Brex's Grin, sort of this idea of the line, what is it? I'll call on God just to see if he'd come down. Like this idea of my jaw's hurting. Where the fuck's God?
Yeah.
Like you did this to me, come fix it. Like this very, like, it sucked. It lasted for 10 days maybe. And it really, like, I could still chew. It wasn't like my life wasn't destroyed because I was grinding. But just like this idea of like me cursing out God was really funny to me, over something minute. And yeah, and I think, personally, I mean, like, I don't subscribe to a religion, and I hate people that say that they're spiritual, not religious. I hate that shit. That's such a dog whistle to me. When people say that they're spiritual but not religious.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
It's such a, like, I don't like, for some reason I don't like that. Like that phrase. The idea is fine to me.
What do you think it's a dog whistle for?
Just like someone who wants to seem more compelling than they are. And like I said, the idea, the ideology behind it, I subscribe to. But it's also like I can say, like, I'm not religious, but I believe in a God, which I do, because it's like there's the humor in it. Like I love, it sounds really corny, but like I look outside and I see like right now, this is so corny. This is so corny. This
Please.
is so pick me of me. Like right now, there's just like whales living a life, like doing their own shit.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And here we are, talking on fucking Twitch. And it's just crazy. I mean, like looking outside, seeing trees, seeing all of this nature stuff, and being like, well, I don't know who put it there, but he's funny as hell.
Yeah.
hell.
he's got a sense of humor.
Yeah, like looking at like a weird ass dog
Mm.
and being like, damn, someone's scheming up there.
Yeah. Looking at like a walrus and being like, okay, I see what you were doing that day.
Yeah, like there's just so many so like for the preschoolers I teach, they're always like they always find out like they love animals, and there's always like the one kid every year who's like a little too precocious, and he's like, "Did you know that 70% of the ocean isn't even discovered?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, that's terrifying."
Yeah. You don't want to know about that.
Yeah, and so like that's the spiritual stuff of me, just like recognizing like you're not the biggest thing in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
We're not the biggest things in the universe. We're not the biggest things on Earth. I'm not the most important thing on my block.
Mm-hmm.
But yet when something goes when there's a nuisance in my life, I'm like, God,
Yeah.
God, the Wi-Fi's not working.
Yeah.
It's berry night.
Yeah. Do you think that it being taboo at all is funny to you?
Yeah. It's like people who are like, keep God in our schools, keep prayer in our schools, keep God out of your comedy.
Mm.
Why? I don't know. I don't want to say like I like to be provocative for the sake of being provocative, but there's something just like funny, like this incessant hatred that some religious denominations have against other denominations about their practices. And I'm like, look at every religious practice.
Mm.
How do you not see the humor? Like it's like, oh, this denomination does this. I would never do that, Catholics. I'm like, bro, eat a fish on Friday, like,
Yeah.
or whatever.
And when it comes to sort of your religion in your music and whatnot versus comedy, is there a place that you'll go to with that and one that you won't go with the other? Or is it sort of open reign on both fronts?
I think I'll go more in my music.
Mm-hmm.
Like I played piano for my church from such a young age, and I love like hymns. I love like gospel music, but like hymns. That was what I played. One of the early things I played, and like these really beautiful melodies. Just like songs of praise, and like the lyrics are so funny. Like at least in the LDS songbook, of just like they sing about like in like the most beautiful melody, just like describing just like a terrible punishment from God.
Mm.
And then the chorus is, "We thank you, God." And yeah, I think in my music I go to it more because it's like my music is more self-reflective, I think, than the comedy.
Did you see it as funny when you were growing up?
Yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, I did, kind of. I thought more like the experience of it was funny. Like there was a moment where I was able to take myself out of it. I was like, 12 or 13, I'm playing piano, and just like all these people are just like, "Nearer, my God, to thee," like dirge. And so I would start throwing in like sevenths, like jazzy chords, to like make it a little more fun, add a little swing to it. And then they asked me to stop. But I was like, this is funny. Like you're all like a 13-year-old, like who can't stop getting erections all the time.
Yeah.
Is playing piano for the most like solemn group of people. So I'm gonna add some jazzy chords.
Do you think that as you grew up, did religion make you funnier at all? Does that make sense? Or did your trauma make you funnier? That's a dumb way to put
Yeah,
it, but just sort of
yeah,
like these bigger experiences.
yeah. I'm not practicing in any way, but I think I have a good relationship with uh, the church I grew up in. It taught me a lot of good things. It taught me a lot of morals things. And then when it started getting to more of the sticky stuff, I was like, I'm good. I have a different definition of of love than you do, and so I'm not sure like if if that religious aspect played too much into it um, for humor, but definitely like I mean it's such a thing in comedy now, which is I both like and don't like the idea of like trauma comedians
Mm-hmm.
who get up and do TED talks. Um, and it's like I got to be careful with what I say, but like I think it's become such commonplace for the idea of vulnerability to automatically be rewarded. Um, you know, uh, like Hannah Gatsby and Aziz Ansari's like special he did after he got canceled. Him sitting on a stool, speaking slowly. Like this idea of like introspection makes you uh, good. But then at the same time, like I'd enjoy people like Gary Goldman and Mike Birbiglia, who are very open about their stuff. And I think the reason why is because like Mike Birbiglia specifically, I think he has a level of self awareness to point out his own flaws. And so I think like if I can like highlight trauma and comedy while maintaining like some self awareness and like pointing out like I'm not the good guy in this story, nor am I the bad guy. This is just a weird story.
I think that that's a really interesting thing in regards to. Did you see the newest John Mulaney special?
I did.
I think that that's almost a similar thing that he did. That he was just like, I don't know why they were painting me as the like good little boy for so long, but like here's me talking about some shit. Like you can like me for it, you can't.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the whole like likability being a crime aspect is
Yeah.
really funny to me, and sort of being meta in the sense of acknowledging the parasocial relationship that he's had with like fandoms and the internet in general, and getting a look behind the curtain was interesting for him because he was like he had self-awareness about it.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what did you think about it?
I liked it. I I liked some of it. Um yeah, I mean like the whole parasocial thing is so weird to me. Um and it's like the same it's like not only with celebrities but like the same people that like think politicians are their friends. Uh you know, and it's like they're people too, just like but specifically with celebrities. Like I follow I'm obsessed with Dumois
Mm-hmm.
and I find myself feeling guilty where I'm like, damn, like just let Trevor Noah and Halsey go out and get coffee. Like,
Yeah.
damn, like just let them do that. Uh, but then at the same time, it's like, yeah, this parasocial relationship is like everyone has this image that they've built up in their head of John Mulaney being the wife guy, uh, and it's like, bro told you from day one who he was.
Mm-hmm.
He told you day one that he was sweating out vodka and coke at his graduation. Um, and and so it's like this idea like people that are like surprised by his new special. I'm like, what part of rehab was surprising to you? Like, he went to rehab for drugs and now he's talking about it. Like, uh, and yeah, I like the majority of it. I think for me, the it came at the end a little too late, too little, too late. So like this, a more like self reflection. It felt like a lot of it at times felt like he was qualifying that he was an addict.
Hmm.
And like I'm not trying to like gatekeep addiction.
Yeah.
Like anyone can be an addict. Only me.
Hmm.
Only I can be an addict and do art. But at a certain point, I'm like, all right, like for me, I'm like, what about some shit from sobriety? Because for me, that's where like a lot of humor comes from. Is now that you're done numbing yourself, now that you're done ruining your body and mind, and you're clean, you have an immediate wave of emotions you've never had before in like a 2 month span, and you stay sober, but you do some crazy shit, like you make like weird purchases, and you like get really into puzzles or something. You get like really weird hobbies, and like because your body's just like trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, like a part of me is like, talk about that. Talk about the weird things you're doing. Talk about like, like when I got sober, I drank, no joke, 9 cups of coffee a day, and was just chain smoking, and was just like, I was just like shaking all the time, and part of me wanted to talk about that, but that's my own personal want, and I can't. And if I start to think about it too long, I'm like, damn, now you're falling into a parasocial relationship.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn.
You're like, why aren't you me exactly?
Why aren't you exactly me? I'm like, damn, like I'm just as bad as the people like defending Anna.
Yeah.
I'm like, let him be him. I liked it though. It was fun. It was best line of it for me was at the very end, where he says, "You want to cancel John Mulaney? I'll kill him."
Yeah.
And I thought that was a good thesis for his whole routine.
I think part of what I was so curious by with him and just like comedians in general is getting sort of a look at his process, or at least like knowing more about him, because I feel like with comedy you get such a specific brand of who they want them to portray themselves as, and so it can be like the very natural moments of like talking about downtime or off the cuff stuff that I love. And when he was talking to like that child that was in the audience, it reminded me of one of my favorite things ever. Is basically he was at some, I think it might have been like a fundraiser thing, or it was a bunch of comedians doing something together in one night, but he was explaining the OJ trial to like a 12-year-old at this show one time, and it's like one of my favorite comedy clips ever. And it's like pretty just conversational.
Yeah.
And it's just him like explaining how good the OJ trial was as like TV viewing to this 12-year-old. And I think that is something that I've been talking about with Chase too, is that like getting a look behind the scenes can be almost as gratifying as the final product, like you're saying with process and product and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I gotta find that clip. That's so funny. I wish I was like conscious during that. During
Yeah.
we got Johnny Depp. Yeah. I think the behind the scenes stuff was really interesting. I'm like a little late on it, not as an artist myself, but as like a patron and viewer of it. Like I like, like stuff like Twitch and Patreon have been around for years, and I'm finally getting into it. And I only subscribe. That's a lie. I subscribe to 3 Patreons. One is Chase. One is Joe D'Agostino, from Symbols He Guitars, formerly and now Empty Country, favorite songwriter of all time, and then Tom Krell from How to Dress Well, and those are the guys that I follow, and like it's really fun for music, at least, like hearing the demos, hearing rough takes, like seeing the iPhone video of them. But then like, you know, besides that, like I love watching like comedians like interviews or uh like little conversations they have with each other, because it's so, for me it's just so cute. Like I love this clip interview that Bill Hader does on Seth Meyers from like years ago, and just Bill's just like giggling, and just like seeing him like that made it was really gratifying for me, and like getting to understand him more as a person, and him like talking about like a bit that he wanted to do once and didn't work, and like sort of like this idea of like, oh yeah, it's not all polished.
Have you seen him talking about Dateline?
Yeah.
Literally, when you were just saying, like watching clips of comedians, I was just like, oh, like Bill Hader talking about Dateline. And then you said Bill Hader, and I thought you were going to do the whole thing.
Oh, no.
But it's like just people bringing it back to sort of what we were talking about earlier of what falls naturally to you, in the same way that we like watching musicians make their demos. It's also just interesting watching comedians talk because they're funny. And so without it being like an actual stand-up bit, watching Bill Hader talk about his love for Dateline is like one of the funniest things I've ever heard.
It's so funny.
And I think that's like a really good theme that I'm sort of taking out of at least this conversation right now.
Yeah. No, I like that. I agree. Yeah, I think that's something that I need to like take away from this too, and like be more conscious of going forward. But yeah, it's like being more of yourself, and like recognize, like at least with the comedians, like sort of this idea of like what I love about the Bill Hader and Dateline routine is like it's at the end of the day he's just a silly little boy who has really specific bits that no one gets, and I'm like, damn, that sounds just like me and all my boys.
He's just like me, Doug.
It's just like me for real.
I want to round third base here, and I just want to ask you sort of generally, what do you find funny? Whether it's like comedians, like a specific comedian, or this kind of comedy, or this era of whatever.
Yeah, it's funny. I was on Jim Foley's podcast a while ago, and we had a similar conversation. It shouts out Jim Foley from the Bit Players, Bits Per Second, which is his podcast, and Chase does the Film Club. The comedians I like. I mean, I mentioned that like our, you know, personal side, and then I grew up listening to like Emo Phillips, my parents, and Mitch Hedberg, my dad got me into. And I don't really do like, I mean, I guess I do some one-liners at the piano, and you saw me. But for me, what's like really funny is like everyday things. I was on a Zoom a while ago for work with like the board, and it was like a very serious thing, and they opened the meeting with the staff and the board with a land acknowledgement that we were on stolen land, and then they when they went on to talk about how we weren't getting bonuses.
Nice.
And that was so funny. I had to turn off my screen. That was so funny to me that they went straight from like, we are on stolen land, also your work will not be your overtime work will not be compensated. And that was so funny, like this ridiculousness of it all. And I love the ridiculousness of real life. That's what's so funny to me. I'll plug my own joke. My favorite joke that I have is that I was devastated to hear that Queen Elizabeth died the same way that Betty White died, by an AR-15.
Yeah.
I love that joke because so many, because it's true. People die from AR-15s,
Yeah.
and that's sad and not funny. But then also, like, that came from a conversation I had with my mom when Betty White died. My mom hadn't found out yet. We were out to dinner, and my dad said, "Did you see that Betty White died?" And my mom was like, "Oh my God, really?" It's like New Year's Eve a couple years ago. He's like, "Yeah." She's like, "How old was she?" He was like, "You're almost 100." She's like, "Wow, almost 199. What'd she die of?" And then I said, "She was shot in the face."
Yeah.
And just this idea, like, how the fuck do you think she died? She was 99.
Yeah.
Let her die. Uh, and so that's what's funny to me. It's just like the ridiculousness of real life, and acknowledging my own ridiculousness.
I couldn't agree more. And not to say that the guy that I'm talking to, because he makes music and comedy, is the same person as Bo Burnham. But here's a Bo Burnham example.
Yeah.
I remember watching a podcast clip of him one time, and him describing like his favorite shit in the world. I just found fascinating, and like it's a similar thing where he'll like search for a random phrase on YouTube and then like hit like most recent. And so he exclusively like wants to find a video with like 1 or 0 views.
Yeah.
And it's just like the most demented, weird thing in the world to like have a direct glimpse into somebody's life when like they're putting it out there for whoever, and nobody's gonna see it, but like he's gonna see it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a similar thing, is just like finding a beautiful like horror / comedy in just like everyday mundanity, whatever.
Yeah. I love that. One final bit story for you. Back when I used to drink, I used to do this thing where I would, like, because I used to bartend. I got home at like 3 a.m. I get really drunk, and I'd watch Fleetwood Mac music videos, and just for the comment section, because the comment sections on Fleetwood Mac videos, pick any Fleetwood Mac song on YouTube, and the comments are either people saying they're like a teenager and qualifying that they like this music,
Yeah.
or like dedicating it to like their first love, or like someone who died recently, like can't like, and they always would be like love this song ... Every time I hear it ... I think of her ... Linda, if you're out there ... It's Tom. I love that shit. And I used to just like read that drunk off my ass, cracking up. And then it reached a point where I would reply to their comments with like good luck, bro.
Yeah.
I love that shit. I got it. That's so funny that Bo does that. That's so funny.
I agree that the YouTube comment section. Oh, did you disappear? Well, Devon's gone. Well, Devon's gone. It was we were about to end anyway, but he's gone anyway. Yeah, you can follow Devon at Devon_online on Instagram. He's Damien Baby on Spotify and whatnot. Check out Duchess by Damien Baby or Brux's Grin by Damien Baby. And he's a funny guy that makes some pretty good music. And so check him out. He's gone, but